Phew, we are already on video number 4 of this Let's Paint Cragheart series. If you haven't seen videos 1 through 3, click up in the top corner there and you can go back to the beginning and see them. But this is a long form paint series, a little bit different than my other videos, which are normally tutorial style, single one-off videos in which we go over the entire model. These videos are focused on sections, and it's more of a long painting series in which I invite you to paint along with me. So if you're enjoying them and you're on video 4 after seeing the other 3, thank you so much for going on this ride along with me. It was a lot of fun to create these videos. But without further ado, let's get down to the table and we'll get back at it. Alright, so we're here with the possibly final video for our Korg/Cragheart, and we're gonna finally finish his skin. I have some of the ivory, and I'm adding a little bit of ivory to the azure. As you can see, he's already highlighted up way more than the last time you saw him. That's because I went all the way to pure azure on his skin. Now this you can see is very, very bright. You can see that compared to him, that's going to be quite a bright color. So what we're actually going to do here is just hit the tips of his muscles. So we're getting the tips of any of his muscles that are pointing up towards the sun. Still not enough water on it though. Let's get a little bit more water on there. Okay. And also make sure we get his fingers with this. And his knuckles. And any spot that you need to like point out. So, gonna get that. And then still haven't 100% figured out what I'm gonna do with the center section of his chest here. I mean, his name is Cragheart. So I think maybe doing something that has to do with a heart. Could be painting it red. Could be making it look like fire. Not 100% sure there. Then around his face, want to line highlight right around his eyebrows here. And then a little bit on underneath his eyes for his cheekbones. And on the bottom legs, we will sort of edge highlight these rocks. This gives us that real pop that we needed there. Finish up his other hand. So once you get to this stage of the highlight, you're barely using any paint at all. Just trying to get it into a couple spots to make sure that there are some really, really key highlights. Making sure that the eye is drawn to them. It's a little bit too much there. His back muscles are really big. His back rock muscles. I'm going to clean off this brush. It's got too much paint built up on there. There we go. So just sort of edge it in there. Just some of the places. Get a little bit of tips on there. That's it. You're not doing too much. Again, you've already built up most of the highlight that you want, layer after layer. This is just to come back and tip a couple spots with the brightest we're gonna go. You don't want to go to any brighter than this, because then he's not going to look realistic. He's going to look like he's glowing, which you could do. You know, that's up to you. You can make him look like he's glowing if you want, but I'm making a little rock man. So there we go. I think I'd consider that right there completed skin. Okay, so next section. Next thing that we're going to complete is take a little bit more of this white, get into the orange a little bit more here. Orange is drying out, but that's okay. A little bit more of this white here, or ivory. So this is the same exact thing that we just did. We're now going to do like I said, just go and clean off your brush. Make sure that you're always working with a clean brush there. And we're going to tap this right along the top here. At the very, very top. It's going to ensure that this looks orange to the eye. Just this brightest color of orange right there ensures that that stands out as orange. Now we're going to get pure ivory here. Make sure that your brush has water on it. Since you're not mixing it, you don't want to spread it around too much. But now it's time to highlight this, and I'm going to kind of just tap it right up along the top here. And drag it down in some places there. What I'm going to actually do with this one, because of how bright it is I'm going to feather it a little bit. So just sort of mix it back in there. And same thing over here. Just enough to add some highlight. I think that's good enough there. That finishes that up. So his skin is done. His loincloth is done. I'm going to go back to this just to add a little bit of highlight into here. Not much though, because it is in a shadow because it's under his arm. So we don't want to highlight it up too much, but everything deserves to have a highlight of some sort. I think that looks good. That definitely, that adds contrast between the loincloth, which actually, I'm going to take a little bit of brown here, mix it in reverse into here, and ensure that the loincloth here is a little brighter, even though it's in the shadow. I highlighted it up the first time, but it just didn't get that orange highlight. So I want there to be a little bit more orange in there. There we go. So now you can definitely see the difference between his skin and the loincloth and the belt that he's wearing. Now that he's focused a little bit better there. So now the next step, we're going to add some ivory into our Mechanicus Standard Gray to get this much lighter gray color. And that is now going to, and you want to just brush top down, so sort of like this. So it's not really a highlight because it's kind of all the same flat surface. But to make it look like stone, it needs texture and it also needs the color variation. So we're going to make this really bright over time, but you need it to go all in kind of one direction right now. And it's okay if the center is painted a lot, like mine did right there. That's fine. We're going to come back to it in a second. We're going to be doing a lot more highlighting. This is going to dry really quickly, so all you got to do is go back into your white and mix up another shade of gray. Make sure that your brush is at a fine point. Make sure that it is flowing enough. If not, add a little water, touch it back in, it's fine. And we'll do the same thing. But this time, slightly less. Just like that. So, as you can see, it's already starting to look like stone now. Get that like wispy gray look. If it starts to clump at all, clean your brush off and get your brush wet and get some more color. That's something that you have to do over and over and over again if you're trying to get a high level of detail on these little tiny guys. You have to just keep ensuring that the paint is working for you and not against you. So there's that. And now if the blend is not exactly the way you want it to be, if it's too choppy, what you can do is what I'm doing right now is just come back with your brush just with a little teeny tiny bit of water on it. I've wiped it off on a paper towel and just come back through and like rub against it, and that'll help to smear it together. Now your paint has to be thin enough that it stays wet. If it's already dry, that's not going to do anything to help you. But alright, so then we have the lightest version of gray here. Now, like if you're using your own colors instead of mixing, you can see here I've got dark gray, lighter, lightest, very light. We're still not to white yet. And then on this one, I'm going to kind of change it up, and instead of going from that left to right, instead of going from right to left, I'll go left to right. Now before finishing this one up, because of how bright that is, I am going to get a little bit of water here and try to just tone that down just a bit. So there we go. Then, so you can see the difference here in how much that brightness brings out the stone. Again, without the white, or without the very bright highlight, with the very bright highlight. So this will be the last highlight, but we will edge highlight. So this is going to be the last highlight that's actually on the stone itself. And that's just because it's too bright to kind of continue this. It's gonna make it look not like a cobblestone anymore. It's just gonna be too bright. Well, same exact thing we did there. And that last one, I'm gonna go into the ivory one more time. We don't want it to be pure ivory, but you can see it's so close to being pure ivory. We're almost there. And then we very lightly drag across. And we're edge highlighting just the top. You want to do this as softly as you can, just like that. And if your brush, if the white isn't coming off like you need it to, again, make sure your brush is wet, make sure it's not full of paint, and do it again. There we go. There's our painted stone. Alright, now we're going to get into the leather. So, I've already put my colors out for the leather. I have these colors here. Well, they're actually in this order here. And this is from Scale Color. Let's see. We have this Scale Color Orange Leather, Scale Color Iroko, and Birch. And this is all from their wood and leather line. And that's the three of them right here. So we already have a brown out. So we take our brown and we mix it with some of that orange leather. So we get kind of a 50-50-ish. Now you can use whatever colors you want. I just really like this set. It got recommended to me and I've been loving it so far, so I've been trying it out. And what you want to do is edge all of the leather with this. So the center of the leather is going to stay the dark brown, and then any of the crevices are going to stay really dark brown. So like that, and then you're going to come in here, get right across the top. And now the good thing about leather is you're actually able to be a little sloppy with it. It doesn't have to be precise. It actually looks more natural the less precise it is. So just like this. Make sure you grab all these other areas. Oops. Then coming on to here, getting all this area. And just being careful of the skin, because we've already finished up the skin. We definitely don't want to have to go touch that up. So this one we're going to move through pretty quickly. So now what we want to do is add more, keeping our brush wet. Add more of the orange leather. Now orange leather, then you're going to go over the same sort of areas, but kind of dab it on. Don't brush side to side here. Brush up and down. And on this, go across like that. And again here. So we're actually looking at this as if it was three different pieces, right? So you have this bottom piece of the leather here. You have this top piece of the leather here. And then you have the entire circular piece there. So you're looking at it as three separate pieces. I want to go like this, right across the top here. So just sort of dabbing it. Now what's going on this side is you're kind of repeating it, but this is going to be in mostly shadow. So I want to do that around the top of this little thing here and the top of this little, I don't know what these really are, but it looks like some sort of attachment rock. Just like that. And now we're going to take some of this Iroko, and that is going to get mixed in. So you can see me mixing it in the palette back here. Don't worry too much about, is the color exactly the way that I did it? I do it differently every single time. There isn't a perfect way to do it until you've practiced enough. And I definitely haven't done enough leather and enough large leather pieces to have a particular way of doing it. So you can see here, that's kind of the color I'm working with now. This one right here. And then now same thing. We're gonna, point's not sharp. So I have a little bit of dried paint on the tip here.
even though I've been painting this whole time, got a little bit of dried paint on that tip. So when that happens, you can't form a nice sharp point. Well, now we can. Now we're going to come back in here. And again, same thing. Going to dab the tip of it like that. We're going to do even less up here on the edge highlight. Definitely want to get a little bit of it on here though, so that you can see it from the side. And then again, from the top here. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now you're going to take some of this birch here, and the birch is going to go in here, and this will be our final like overall highlight, but we're going to do two more steps technically, but one more thing, and that's to add some interesting detail pieces to it. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So now that we've got this on here, we can real quick, we're going to like edge highlight down here by just picking out a couple of pieces there. And then this one you want to start like near the top, because this is going to be really bright in comparison. So just in the top here. And then coming around and grabbing some of this here. And grabbing some of this back here. And a little bit of this one here. There we go. Okay. Well, oops. Not quite right. Do right here. So I'm going to keep this sort of near just the top middle. We don't want to go the whole way down there. Now we have some scuffs on his leather, which makes sense, right? He's a fighter, so he's got some scuffs. What we want to do is take the birch by itself. This is the pure birch, and this is dried out a bit. I put it out there too early, so we're going to really just wet that down. There we are. Okay. Clean the brush off. Gonna get some birch. And this isn't a large piece. If it was a larger piece, I could do a little bit more with it. But on such a small piece, we're just going to draw a single line. Actually, he's got two big cuts here, so we're going to draw two lines. Number one, we're going to draw this one just like this. And the second one, we're going to draw here and then off the edge. Okay, now you have to always remember where the light is coming from. Okay, the light is obviously coming down from the top because we're not doing any kind of OSL. So if the light is coming from the top, that means that we actually have the reflection of a cut will be on the bottom lip of that cut. It is on a microscopic level, a V, or maybe not even microscopic, maybe it's a giant cut, right? But it's a V. That means that the top lip is going to be hidden. The bottom lip will catch the light. So what we're actually going to do is go right over this white line about halfway through. We're going to take our original base color and we're going to go just like that. And that's how we make a cut. And then in the opposite direction, we do it. Just like that.
New outro, I know. If you want to watch more in this series, click right here. If you would like to watch another video in a completely different series, click right here. And if you'd like an easy way to subscribe, other than clicking down below, even though it's right there and it says subscribe, you can click on this little picture right here. That also works.